Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Public Affairs. Today, I will be interviewing Philippine Consul General Leo Herrera-Lim. Well, this will be a very informative program. I'll be asking him questions about the community, general concerns, and different projects and events that happen in the Philippines. Welcome to Public Affairs, Consul General Lim.
Magandang araw, Awee. And good morning to all your viewers.
Yes. I'd like to, first and foremost, know what is the statistics for the entire population of Filipinos living in the United States. At the same time, what would be the areas of your jurisdiction and the population in those areas?
In this jurisdiction. Well,
yes.
Based on the 2010 U.S. Census, there's around 3.4 million Filipinos in the whole of U.S. So if you allocate around 2% growth annually, that figure would have risen closer to 4 million for this year. And then I cover 2 1/2 states and 3 full states. So 1/2 of California is mine, the southern part, 1/2 part of Nevada, and at the same time 3 full states, New Mexico, Arizona, and Texas. In Southern California alone, there's around 825,000 Filipinos based on the 2010 census. So again, if you put in 2% growth and put in some of the intermittent visitors to the state, we'll be close to around 1 million in Southern California. I keep telling our people that 1 out of every 4 Filipino lives in Southern California. The other 3 lives in the 49 other states or 49 and a half. So it entails for us a diligent and regular effort to have an outreach around Southern California, particularly Detroit, not Detroit, San Diego, and then on the other states, Dallas and Houston, and the cities of Las Vegas and Phoenix.
It is very evident that many Filipinos are here in the medical profession, nurses, doctors, but definitely we have students and others. What are they?
Well, we have probably around 3 generations or 4 generations of Filipinos or Filipino Americans in the Southern California area. The first batch that came here are, believe it or not, farmers. They worked in the grape farms in, say, Delano, or the other outlying areas. Then after the war, a lot of our doctors came in terms of trying to work in the underserved areas, not in Southern California or even in the 60s in Nevada. And during the recent years, we also have had a lot of caregivers, domestic helpers, who have called Southern California their home. And then somewhere in San Diego, we have a lot of Navy personnel and their families finding San Diego as their home.
Now, what type of services and assistance do you offer the Filipino nationals?
Well, we have what I'll call a core function, which is consular services. Providing passports or documentations to Filipinos. Our passport has been upgraded to what we call the e-passport, meaning there's an embedded microchip in the passport. It facilitates the travel of our Filipinos, particularly those who have to pass through immigration lines. Before, they might have to stay around 20-30 minutes. Now it's 2 to 3 minutes pass through immigration lines. And then at the same time, it has increased the respect for our passport because we have lessened or practically reduced to a bare minimum or zero the chance of having 2 persons having the same name or passport.
Yes. And speaking of assistance, I understand you are trying to urge the American government to assist those Filipinos who are stranded here because of the typhoon. So it's a temporary protected status.
Yes. Well, this is part of the stopgap measures to help pretty much the Philippines in terms of rebuilding. We don't want the pressure of deportation adding on to the problems in the Philippines. So the Philippine government, after a careful study, have requested the U.S. government for a temporary protected status for Filipinos whose visa status may have lapsed during the past few months, as long as they were in the U.S. before November 8, 2013, when the typhoon struck the Philippines. We've asked on a humanitarian basis, the U.S. government not to deport them back to the Philippines, and in the meantime, to grant them temporary protected status, meaning they can work here and stay here without fear of being arrested or deported. This program has been granted to other nationals of other countries who've been affected by either civil strife or natural calamities.
Now, you spoke of workers. Do you have any problems with people that they come here and they're petitioned to work for some employers and have some employee-employer relationship problems and situations? What type of assistance do you offer?
Well, we do encounter that from time to time, but it's not as pronounced, say, as in what's happening in, say, the Middle East or some of the disputes in, say, Hong Kong or Singapore. The good thing about, I think, the whole environment of working in the U.S. is, one, there's a trustable legal system that pretty much provide an anchor for the protection of certain rights. Then number two, we have a good partnership with some of the credible NGOs and also with the Department of Labor of the U.S., OSHA, and WHD, the HR division. So we've been able to tackle many of the problems when they're still starting to grow before it became like a widespread problem. One of the organizations that we work with, an NGO, the Filipino Workers Center, they've been an active advocate for domestic helpers' rights and caregivers. These are the vulnerable sectors in terms of contract disagreements, so they've been helpful in the process.
Consul General, what about problems with deportation? Do you also share that problem with immigration people that are here and undocumented?
Well, ever since I've arrived during the past 5 months, there's been a marked decrease in the deportation of Filipinos. I've seen the figures in, say, 2010, 2011, wherein there was a whole big size of not only Filipinos, but a lot of undocumented nationals being deported, and there's a significant number of Filipinos. But that number has considerably dropped during the past 6 months.
Yes, that's good news. Now, in the sense of participation from the Filipino nationals who are living in the United States, some people perhaps are not aware that they can vote, right? They come here and you are doing the overseas registration.
Well, Awee, thanks for that plug and that prompt. Indeed, we want to share with our compatriots the fact that one of the values that we share with Americans is our love for democracy. We want to protect the democratic institutions in the Philippines. Even if you say that many of the newspapers would say highlight some degree of corruption in certain sectors of the Philippines, at the end of the day, it's the civic duty of every national or citizen to protect the institutions of democracy. And the only way we can show it wherever we are, whether the Filipinos are in Southern California or in Europe or in the Middle East, is to be active players in that political system and to show that they care about the democracy in the Philippines and not leave it to a few corrupt people to run the country. So they have to be active, and the only way they can be active is to register to vote. We can do it here in the consulate. Once they're registered, in the coming elections, we will mail them the ballot, so they'll not be hassled and going back to the consulate to vote, and then they can mail back the ballot to us, and we will ensure that that vote will be counted in our elections. Earlier on, during the start of the program, we mentioned the size of the Filipino community in the U.S. That's a game changer for any elections if all of them are active in the process.
Yes. And of course, you encourage everyone to visit the Philippines. And are there any balikbayan incentive programs?
Well, right now, I think there's a growing interest in the Philippines. The Philippines has been attractive during the past few years as destination for trade, investment, and of course tourism. People have been rediscovering the Philippines and its beauty. I think we can mention at the very least, that there's 7,100 islands in the
Yes.
Philippines. So if you don't want one island, there's 7,000 other islands that you can you can visit. But the whole strength of our country in terms of either tourism or investment is our people. You can find similarly nice beaches or nice hotels, just like in the Philippines. But the people is a big difference. Our people has been part of their DNA has been to be hospitable and to be welcoming to visitors. You would be treated like a king in the Philippines, a natural VIP. So many of the visitors have come back to us and said that that's the biggest reason that they return to the country. Not just the fabulous sites, but the people that have made their stay a bit more welcome than their other stays.